Well, hello, everybody. I'm Doug Flynn, and welcome to the Doug Flynn Show. Now, I've never done a podcast before, and this is my very first time. I've watched a few, and I've been on a few as a guest, but I've really never, ever done any. And I was telling my friends all about it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go in the studio, we're going to have a good time, and we're going to talk about a lot of topics. Well, the first thing my friend said was, obviously, it's going to be a sports show because that's about all you know how to talk about. And I told him, there'll be a time, I'm sure, throughout the course of doing these shows that we'll probably have some guests on, guys I played ball with or maybe played against. We'll bring them on here, but that's not what this show is really going to be about. See, I'm 73 years old right now. And at 73 years of age, I realize that I have really not done enough, I think, or been loud enough on certain topics that are going on around this country right now. And I think it's time that I got a little bit more vocal with them. This podcast is not going to be judgmental, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. And sometimes I'm going to be a little different than you are, but here's what we're going to do. Whenever we start discussing a topic and it looks like it's one that a lot of people are disagreeing on, since this is going to be a faith-based podcast, then we're going to go to the Bible and let God answer all of those questions. See, I finally, in my life, have learned to do that. Now, early in my career, when I was playing ball, especially when I was up in New York, I tried to please all the fans. That's one of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to please man. I wanted to say the right things. I wanted to do the right things. I was hoping I would play a little bit better, but it didn't happen. And therefore, 50 years after I got traded to New York, I'm still getting phone calls from some of my friends, and not some friends, that are calling me and wanting to know why I got traded for Tom Seaver and what did I have to do with it. Well, the answer to that is I didn't have anything to do with it. But I did come to New York, and actually it was one of the best things to ever happen to me because I got a chance to be an everyday ball player. And by doing that, it has opened up the doors for so many things for me right back here in Lexington, Kentucky. And I still stay in touch with a lot of my friends who I played ball with in New York. So when we start talking about doing this podcast, I went, yeah, because there's a lot of topics out there that I'm concerned with. I don't have answers for everything that are going on right now, but I do know that our country is in a lousy place. I go to the grocery sometimes with my wife. I can't believe what the price of food is. The price of gas just continues to go up. We have open borders where we got people coming into our country that we have no idea who these people are at all. And yet we have military folks who go out and battle, and some of them lose their lives, lose limbs. They come back home and they can't get a dime from anybody. But yet there's illegal people that are coming over here and they're getting free medical, they're getting phones, they're getting television, they're getting a free food, they're getting a free place to live. But we're not even taking care of the people who have laid it on the line. That upsets me. And the way things are going, it's getting worse and worse. So it's time that we started talking about things like that. Look what's going on our college campuses. Our campuses are a mess right now. When you can stand up on a college campus and say, death to America, and you are siding up with a group like Hamas, which is killing people, I'm not hearing anybody say anything bad about that. If our country is so bad, and people say you're cold-hearted when you say stuff like this, if it's that bad and you don't like it and you're for some of these others, one of the best things we got in our country is the freedom to pack up and get on a plane and go there. And that's okay with me. Now, I don't want to be hard-hearted because I'm learning how to love and I'm learning how to forgive, and that's some of the toughest stuff that I've ever had to go through. But there's people out there right now that don't care a thing about what's going on in our country. I've learned one thing over the last several years, and that's this. I cannot look at myself, and you shouldn't look at yourself through the eyes of other people that don't really care about you in the first place. You ever thought about that? Don't look at yourself through the eyes of other people, because if I looked at myself by a lot of stuff that was written about me in New York after some of the years I had, and some of them weren't very good, I wouldn't like me at all. And it's unfortunate that because you play bad baseball, they assume you're a bad person. Well, that's not necessarily true at all, because there's a lot of really good ball players that aren't very good people either. So what I'm learning to do is, who am I trying to please? Am I trying to please man, or am I trying to please God? And so this podcast is going to be talking about a lot of subjects. And then when we struggle with some of the answers, although we're going to be bringing on some preachers, some of my friends in the entertainment world, some of my baseball friends, and we're not always going to be on the same side of the aisle. So we're going to bring some of them in here, and it's going to be quite exciting, I think, when we go head to head, especially when you go head to head with a friend. And I promise you this, after we get through having a little argument or discussion, we'll still love each other, and we'll probably go out and get a bite to eat. And that's why I'm excited about doing this. But the real excitement about it is that I'm unashamed of the gospel of Christ. So because of that, I think it's time that we stood up. I just got something a little while ago that came across my phone, and I think it says a whole lot about where we are right now. And I'll read it to you. It says, the church isn't getting more political, because people are always talking about separating church and state, but it says politics are getting more theological. And boy, that's the first time I heard it. I can't take credit for it, but whoever said it, they're absolutely right. Because who'd have ever thought that when I got a young daughter growing up that is a pretty good athlete, and yet she goes to a state tournament and gets beat by a guy? That just is not right. Have we lost all of our common sense? Because that's what seems to have happened right now. Things that used to seem so logical, now you look around, you think, have I lost my mind? Or is things changing that much? But evidently they're changing an awful lot, because one of the reasons we've been apathetic to what's going on. Well, as long as it doesn't affect me, then I'm probably not going to get involved. Well, that's why we want to do this podcast, because we want to have a chance to stand up and not only give you our opinion, but we're going to be hearing from some of you. And if you got a topic that you want to hear about, trust me, we're not afraid. We will get right after it. Now, where do I get any credibility to come on and do a podcast? I'm just like you guys, man. I'm very blessed because people served and fought for this country that allowed me to live a dream. I got to live a dream growing up here in Lexington, Kentucky, by playing Little League baseball and moving on up through high school, going to the University of Kentucky, where I got to play basketball for a year, my freshman year. Wasn't good enough to play on the baseball team, so I headed down to a junior college. And it was at that junior college that some friends woke me up one morning and said, hey, we're going to go try out for the Cincinnati Reds. Hey, it's okay with me. Let's go. So we headed out. I borrowed a glove, borrowed a pair of shoes. The scout looked at me and said, you're not real serious about this, are you? And I sort of laughed. I don't know why he didn't think so. I had a tank top and a pair of cutoff shorts and a headband on. Why he didn't think I was serious about this. So he said, I want to see you at another one. So I ended up going to Frankfurt, then up to Cincinnati, then back to Lexington, Kentucky, and signed a professional contract for $2,500. 3 years later, was a part of the Big Red Machine. And I mean, you'd have to live in a cave if you don't remember the Big Red Machine. I don't care how old you are. We went back-to-back World Series, and I tell everybody I had really good seats for 2 years watching those guys play. But I learned so much about the game, so that when it came time for me to be an everyday ball player, I was sort of ready. But, after going to a few tryout camps, I'm just glad I got to hang around for a few years. I think what helped me a lot in that, too, is my parents were solid Christian people. Matter of fact, my dad told me, even after all the years that I played pro ball, when I got ordained as a deacon at the church, my dad walked up to me and said, today is the proudest day of my life. And I'll never forget that. My dad didn't have a whole lot. Great athlete. My mom was a great athlete. They played as close professional as you could. Dad played here in Lexington on a team called the Hustlers, which was really good. Then he played a year with the Brooklyn Dodgers minor league team in Hazard, Kentucky. And he was good. He was a lot better than me because he could hit and he could run. I think I took after Mom. I got my hands, and so thank goodness I was able to. There's two parts of the game of baseball, as you all know. There's the offense and defense. I'm just, as Mark Belanger once said, I'm just thankful that I got to contribute to one of them. So this podcast, you're going to hear a whole lot more about not only my life growing up and some of my friends and what they're doing, but also you're going to hear how God has changed our life. Ours got changed back in 1984 when we went to a conference called Pro Athletes Outreach. It was while we were at this conference that we had a lot of pro baseball players and their spouses, and by talking to them, you realize we were all going through some of the same struggles. and trying to find those answers. Our pride, our ego, or whatever was keeping us from really jumping in and being the men that God wanted us to be. And so with some great tutors that we had and some great leadership, it changed my life, changed my wife too. I mean, we've been married 42 years now, 41 really happy. First one was a little rocky, but I think that was when our growth period was. And then right after that's when we got to go to that conference. And now everything we do and every decision we make in our life is we go to the prayer. I don't care if it's finances, if it's moving, it's whatever it is, if it's our health. The one thing we do is we always make it a point to go to Christ and see what he wants. Because a lot of times the stuff that we want is not really in God's timing. And we're finally understanding that. And I say finally because, you know, I'm 73 now, and even though I got baptized at an early age, it wasn't until I was 35 that I really decided to let Christ be the center of everything that I do. Have I slipped up? Yeah, a few times. I'm hoping that that's getting less and less, but one thing that helps is I stay around other group of believers, and we got some here in our studio. And those believers are also accountability partners, because the Bible says where iron sharpens iron, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's what we want to do for you all. May be some decisions in your all's life that you're out there now and thinking, you know, all right, I've kind of run from God for a lot of these years. So maybe it's time that I start settling down and seeing what he wants for my life. You know, that's what this show is going to be all about. You're going to hear a lot about our faith. I'm excited, and I've written down a lot of topics that I want to talk about, not because I know a lot about them, but there are just a lot of things in my life that I've had questions about. And I have changed my opinion on a whole bunch of these things. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of stuff back there that I looked at that I'm not real happy with. I'm not real proud about either. But the one thing that I know for sure is that when I accepted Christ, that he forgave me for all of that. And there's some topics that may be bugging you right now that you want us to talk about. And we're going to have people on that are going to know a whole lot about the Bible. They're going to also know a whole lot about a lot of stuff. I only got a 2-year degree. I got an AA degree from a junior college. I'm not afraid to talk. It's just sometimes it comes out real Kentucky. And so you may need an interpreter sometimes as we get wound up and start doing some of this stuff. But we want you to ride along with us and have a good time, because it's going to be fun and it's not going to be threatening. And hopefully there's going to be enough information where you're going to say, you know what, I'm glad I got to hear that today, because I needed somebody to maybe reaffirm what I was already thinking. One of the things that really excites me about this show or this podcast is I get to bring on a whole lot of guests. Now, obviously, I'm going to bring on people who agree with me with some things. And they might be some former athletes, people from the entertainment business, just people in the community. Maybe want to bring business leaders that are going to come on. But we're also going to bring people on who might not agree. As a matter of fact, I'm going to kind of not cherish, but I'm going to look forward to that, because if we can bring people on here, better come on and be ready to go, because I'm going to ask you, if you disagree with what I'm doing, if you disagree with what the Bible says, you better have a good reason why you're doing it your way. But I want to talk about it. I don't think we talk about this stuff anymore. If you say you vote this way or you vote this way, and people are not talking out anything. And you know what's really become a problem is if you admit that you made a mistake, then you automatically, or it's a sign of weakness. My goodness, can you imagine how many mistakes we all make? So the guests are going to be a huge part of this, and we could call people from all over the country, but you're going to know a lot of them. But the one thing we want to do is we want to come on, we want to have a good fun, but we also want to see how God's working in each and every one of their lives. And that's what this show is going to really, really take off, I think, is to find out what God's doing through illnesses, through professions, through marriages, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be fun. So we're hoping that you're going to like it. If you got any ideas, let us know. Hey, I've always been told that I was pretty coachable. And if that's the case, then send us stuff in here. We'll see what we can do. So that does it for us right now. And we hope that you'll join in and pick us up every week, because we're going to have a good time with this. In the meantime, we hope your life is going good. I'm Doug Flynn. You may know me as The Glue.